Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to give a nice, good overview of how you should have like some basic setup. Um, Notice over here I have my workstation 1. You can tell that right here, workstation 1. In the center is my server because I'm going to do a lot of different things with my server. And over on the right I have my workstation 2. And then notice how I've taken the time to organize everything here. I have, with a BG info, I have everything set up exactly the same across the board. So, so I know what host I'm looking at, what the IP address is, what the subnet, the gateway, the MAC address, the DNS server, so on and so forth. The reason I showed the MAC address is there's going to be times when we do things where we're going to make a clone, and we want to make sure that MAC address has rotated appropriately. Another thing that I've done, if you notice, I went ahead and have everything kind of set up. I have BG info here, so I could quickly grab that. If there's a change, I could just kind of click on it and it'll pop up. And notice how it'll only stay up for a few seconds and then it'll go away. And when it goes away, it'll reapply it. One of the other things that I did is there is a folder in here called Startup, and if you come into Startup and you say Explore, I put BG info in here so that it starts up and it puts it right into the background automatically with refreshed every time. Another thing that I did along the bottom of each one of my machines is I have either PowerShell set up down there, or I have my command line interface. Another thing that I've done, once I got everything set up the way that I wanted, I also went and I made sure that I could ping everything, which is important. You want to make sure that you have a proper line of communication with everything. So I have a ping going on there to this server, and then I should be able to ping over to 10. From the server, I want to test that I can ping 192.168.34.10, and then I also want to ping 20 as well. And the last thing I want to do is over here, I want to make sure that I can ping everything. Whoops, that's going to fail. I want to make sure that I can ping everything over here as well, which shouldn't be a problem because I've already tested the majority of this stuff. So after that, I will go up to 20. All right, and what that did require was for me to go through and bring up the firewall requirements and everything, and make sure I allowed for an inbound rule on ICMP on the file and printer sharing. It's the echo rule ICMP. Now while I'm in here, another thing you might want to look at is the just the general file and printer sharing. A couple different rules that are in here, and one of the neat things you can do, you can double click on these guys and it'll tell you what the rule does. You might have to go out and you might have to read a little bit more, but it's going to tell you what it does, and it's important to have a look at those different rules. There are a lot of rules, but you can take and you can read about them. You can look at other rules, and in a client like Windows 7, notice that there is a different rule for the different area, public, private, and domain. When you get over here in Windows Server 2012, and I'll bring up the firewall over here real quick for us to have a look at this. It's my bad. Changes just as I go to grab it. Alright, so my inbound rules over here, it's going to take and clump things together a little bit more. So notice how it says file and printer sharing echo request ICPM4. The reason it groups things together is it's going to assume that you know what you're doing because you're on a server. And in here, you're going to have to click on advanced, and that gives you that domain, private, and public. Something you might want to keep in mind for a later is the scope, local and remote. This will allow our firewall to allow things to go back and forth. So you might want to think about that for later. With that being said, let's do some basics. Let's maybe share a printer, or I'm sorry, not a printer, but a folder back and forth. While I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I want to install. So you've seen it. I'm going to go ahead and install and attach one of my machines over. So I'll go ahead and click on next. I'm selecting the basics. I want to do Active Directory domain services. I'll say add features. I don't need any of the other things that are in here. However, you should look at like DHCP server, DNS server, Hyper-V, which you can't install Hyper-V, web servers with IIS, so on and so forth. Here we can just accept these as default, and away it's going to go. Make sure you read everything. You need to look down at the bottom. It says you can close this wizard without interrupting running tasks. And what will happen is it'll show up here and tell you when it's ready to go. So it won't take but another few minutes there. While I'm doing that, I am going to take and I'm going to create a new folder over here on my workstation 1. Remember, I have taken the time to turn on network discovery in my firewall. And I'm going to make it called sharing folder. I want to right click and I'm going to say properties, go to sharing, and then I want to click on share. Once I have share here, it's going to say, choose people you want to share this with. I have workstation 1 as owner. I could also do the administrator if I want, and then I can change my permission levels to like read, write, or whatever I want, and click on share. It's going to say, well, how do you want to share this? Shared items aren't accessible when your computer is asleep. Just kind of reminding you of that. After you've shared this, it'll show you what the share is, but you can also go into advanced sharing, and you can share other things here if you want. You can say, this is my share. Something like that. From here, I can click on who and what I want to be able to share here. I can play around with these different things that I have going on. After I've done that, I can come over to my workstation 2. And under workstation 2, this becomes pretty simple. I can just click on network at this point because I've turned on that network and sharing. And double click on that, it's going to pop up and it's going to ask me. Now if you remember over here, I added administrator in as a share. It's a person that is allowed on that. Try it again. Maybe I'll just try WS1. Oops. There we go. I used one of the built-in accounts over here, so I could come back here if I wanted and adjust the sharing permissions accordingly. See, I could add in here administrator. Click on check name. I'll give them full control. And then back over here, that would change it accordingly. So there is my share. And then under my share, just so you can kind of see this working, my share over here, I can say a new folder, flow, and we can pretty much see it in real time show up over here. And it's mine over here in workstation 1. It's mine, so I can change that to hello you, and it's going to change over here. And we can change these permissions on the fly, so I can come into permission and I can say everybody is only allowed to read inside of there, along with administrator. Click apply on all of those. And let me see if that now inside of here, if that automatically updates it. Yep. Right away it says you need permissions to perform this action. All right. So now I could actually read everything over here, but I cannot write anything to this. I can't make anything new. All right. Okay. So there is that. And by the way, the printer is very similar to that. So here in the center in my server, I've installed the DNS server and the Active Directory server. So now I need to set that up. So I'm going to come up to my little flag up here at the top, the notifications. I'm going to click on that and it says you got to promote this to domain controller. I'm going to add a new forest and I'm going to follow along with the book. Net plus lab.net. Next. And it's going to take just a minute here, and once I have this up, I got to put the password in. Next. It's going to ask about delegation. So I don't have another one. I can just skip over this, and it'll be fine. If I have another one, I need to attach it to it. It's going to take a minute and it's going to come up with a NetBIOS name. This is what's going to allow for the basic communications back and forth using the NetBIOS protocol. It's going to come up with Net plus Lab. I'll click on Next. I can leave all of these alone. These are where the different database and log files are going to be. Make sure you kind of take note of that, right? So if you need to look at that stuff, you can. And now it's going to say, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to install these different things. The DNS server will be configured on this computer, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Now it's going to run through and make sure that the prerequisites are all set up and ready to go. And it says everything is good, so I'm going to click on Install. I would make sure you take the time to read the different warnings that you get. Whenever you see a yellow like that, it is a warning, and it talks about a variety of different issues that you may need to be aware of on your particular installation. While I'm at it and I'm waiting for things, you should really take a moment and check out some of the other options I have up here for you. I do have a FileZilla client installed, so that once you have a FTP server set up, you should be able to kind of connect to it if you want to do that. Gotta do a reboot here. WinDirStat is a pretty neat program. Click on that and it's going to show me the size of different files. For example, the page file for this is 4 gigs. It's taking up 4 gigs, and when it's done, it'll show you where everything is, which is pretty darn neat. So you could click on a specific file and it'll tell you, gives you kind of a graphical representation of everything. And it'll tell you what it is and actually where it's located. So I could drill all the way out to that if I wanted, and I could delete that out. I'm not going to, but I could. What's that guy up there? Kind of cool. Now keep in mind that right now all of my machines are plugged into, and I can show this to you real quick, they are all plugged into the same switch. If I come down to my network on each one of these, we'll see that they're all plugged into LAN segment switch 1, and switch 1. They all have to be able to communicate with one another, so that is where they're plugged in. If I would need access on one of my clients or my server, I want to click it to connect it to the bridge or NAT. But I want these guys to all communicate back and forth with one another, so I'm just going to leave it on that for now. Now another neat thing that I need to make you aware of is I took, at this point, a clean, what I call a clean snapshot of everything. And the way I did the clean snapshot was using VMware. I clicked on VMware and I say snapshot, and I'll show you the snapshot manager here is what I'll do. But I took a snapshot, so when I'm done with this, I can roll back to a clean state on all of these, and it's as if nothing happened at that point in time. So back to this, I have everything set up, but we need to be aware of is I need to put a additional user in here. All right. So if I come up here to the top, I hope you're taking the time to look through all the different things that you have. And in here is Active Directory users and computers. And right here's the Net Plus. All right. And what I want to do is I want to come down to users, and I want to right click, and I want to say new user. Notice I can do new shared folder, new printer, new group, new contact, so on and so forth. I'm going to do a new user, and I want to call it Net Plus. And for a real new user, there's a couple different ways. If it's one user, this is probably quicker. But through PowerShell, we actually have the capability of writing a quick script that can read a CSV file and create all of these accounts for us. Let's say we have any more than like 2 or 3. It's easier to create a script that's going to import the new users. Plus, it's going to cut down on a lot of human error. So this user login name is going to be Net Plus Lab. I'm sorry, I'm just going to make it Net Plus. And it's going to be part of the Net Plus .net domain. If I had multiple domains, I would select which one I want. And here, I want to put in a password. Again, if you're using PowerShell, one of the things that you could do in that script is you can tell all of them that they have to change the password at the next login, and you could put into it a default password, like it could be the date that it was created. It could be something personal to them, like their birthday followed by their middle name or something like that, and you tell them what it is, and you could force them to change it the next time that they log in. I don't want to do that. I'm going to say that the user cannot change the password. The password never expires. But the reason I'm doing that is it just makes it easy for me over here whenever I change this here in a few minutes. I'm going to click on Next and then Finished. And now there is my Net Plus lab, or my Net Plus user. I can always come in here into Active Directory and I can look at the properties, and I encourage you to do this. Look at the properties of this. You can put all kinds of things in. This is exactly what is behind the scenes at Frostburg State University. You can add people to different user groups. You can add them to different places within the organization. So this would, for example, my job title would be Professor of Computer Science and Information Technologies, Company Frostburg State University, who my manager is, so on and so forth. All right, who my direct reports are, what my telephone number is. All of this stuff is populated in Active Directory at Frostburg State University. So now that I have my Active Directory set up and my DNS set up, it's time to attach one of these two computers to the domain. And I'm going to choose my Workstation 1 PC. I want to come down here and I'm going to short circuit this. I can't remember how it's done in the lab, but I'm going to come to Computer and I'm going to say Properties. And then when I get in here under Properties, I'm going to come right here to Change Settings. And then once I get here where it says rename this computer, I want to say rename and I want to say domain. All right, so this is Net Plus lab.net, netpluslab.net. I'm going to click on OK. It immediately prompts me. So I'm going to say net plus, and then the password. That's that new user that I created over here on the server, right? Maybe I should bring that back up just to remind you and refresh your memory. If you come down here into users, there is the net plus, and I put in my password. I'm going to click on OK. It's going to take a second. It's going to communicate over to my server here. And if everything goes well, it'll pop up in just a second. I'll say welcome to the domain, and then we have to reboot. There we go. Welcome to netpluslab.net domain. And now I'm going to be forced to reboot is what's going to happen. Now, upon rebooting, once you attach a computer to the domain, this is more for an advanced class, but what's going to happen is any policies that you've created over on your domain, for your domain, are going to be forced down to this. And there's all different types of things that you can do in here. You can, this isn't the group policy area, but you can come through and you can specify different policies that you want to happen. So back over here on this machine, it is now ready to be logged in. I'm going to click on switch user, other user, and notice it's going to come up and say log into NetPlusLab. So now I can only use accounts that I've created on this domain. So for example, if I put in Mike and I say notice it's going to pop up and it's going to say, oh, no, sorry about that. That user doesn't exist. However, eventually it will say it doesn't exist. There we go. However, one of the things I could do, just to show you, I could come in and put a new user in called Mike. And I said Mike. This time I'm going to put it in user must change password at Nets login so you can see what happens. Okay. Alright, so there I am. So watch this now. So I want to use that default password that I just created for myself. And look at that, it says user's password must be changed before logging in for the first time. And I want to put in there changing password. It has been changed, and now I'm going to log in for the first time. Alright, so hopefully this is kind of showing some of the interaction that happens. One of the last things I want to do is I want to go back. Let's say we got everything done. I want to show you the importance of using those snapshots. Remember this, I just attached to the domain. Let's say that I messed that up, or I want to try it again. I can come up to my snapshot manager and I can say, you know what, roll back to that clean state, and I want to say go to, and away that goes. I'll even roll this one back, snapshot, revert to snapshot clean, and away they both go. It doesn't take long before they have rolled back. Now at this point in time, notice that it is not part of a specific domain. I would like for that to run. So I'll say apply, so that updates because that's out of date. But this is good to go. However, do note that if you look at this, on my roles, my DNS and my Active Directory are no longer installed. I can't think of anything else that is of relevance right now, and I hope that this helps you out. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Have a great day.